This is 40 meters of fabric cut into 8 circle skirts that I now have to hem. Please save me. Hello and welcome. My name is Daphne and I'm so glad you're here. I'm currently in the process of making 2 dresses from Barbie and 12 Dancing Princesses. And today we're going to make the skirt, or try to anyway. I haven't even started and I'm already running into some problems, but we'll go over that in a second. First, let's talk layers and fabrics. So if you actually look at these skirts in the movie, they're very pretty, very swooshy, very full, and they have that gorgeous gold glimmer. As you can probably see, I have an idea for that. So let's talk layers. The first layer is going to be a tulle petticoat. That's just going to provide some extra swishy motion, some floof, and more importantly, it's going to prevent these rungs from pressing through the fabric and being visible. It's not very pretty. I have a lovely royal blue tulle for myself, and I have this minty tulle for Iris.
Hey, voiceover Daphne here. I'm just butting in because past Daphne never bothered to explain to you that Iris is my sister and I'm making the second dress for her.
This is way too blue. We bought it online and it looked fine on the picture, but it's very minty in real life. It was called mint. This is totally on us. I've done this before from this exact same shop and they had this peach tulle and I ordered it and then I was surprised it was peach. Someone teach me to read. Anyway, then on top of that we have this gold printed chiffon. It feels terrible, I'm not going to lie, but I think it's going to drape really nicely. It's going to shine through the upper layers and going to give us that really fairy tale effect that we want. The next layer is going to be this lovely chiffon. We went for a bit of a more expensive chiffon, not terribly expensive because we needed 5.5 meters of it, but a bit more on the expensive side just because that's going to have a nicer drape and it's so pretty. It costs so much, but it's really pretty. That's going to go over top. The royal blue for me, and for Iris we have this green, grassy green? I don't know. It turns out that finding right colors of green is really difficult. In theory that should be all the layers. This is not going to be all. Our first little problem is the petticoat layer. I was really impatient, so I started sewing up my petticoat. We bought 5 meters of this, and in hindsight, I don't know why I thought that was going to be enough. But I sewed this together and pinned it on my mannequin and was like, yeah, no, that's not going to be enough volume at all. So we did order another 5 meters of each. In hindsight, we probably could have done with 10 instead, if not more. But I'm not going to order more again. Problem is, that should not come in until next week. So that's inconvenient. I think it's going to be fine. Mostly I hope it's going to be here in time for the reveal for this video, but we're gonna find out. Let me quickly drape this on the mannequin and then we'll go over the other problems that this has.
Alright, problem 1, you actually kind of can't tell right now, but this is very sheer, so we're going to need to have an opaque underlayer. It makes complete sense that this is sheer because all of these fabrics are sheer, but I was kind of hoping that together they would be opaque enough not to need another layer. The thing is, I'm gonna make full circle skirts and they take up a lot of fabric, so even if you buy really cheap fabric, it's going to end up being kind of expensive. So yeah, we're probably going to do a really simple cotton underlayer just to help with the sheerness. The other problem is it looks very metallic. It's way too gold. I'm not really happy with that. What I am thinking is doing another layer of chiffon. Not a fan of that because, again, expensive. Preferably I just buy more of the chiffon and use more layers. I think that would be the prettiest. The thing is, the chiffon not that cheap and it's fine if you have to buy a meter or 2, but I have to buy 5 meters. So that's probably not going to happen. Never say never, because I'm a perfectionist and I do stupid things for perfectionism. What I can also do is buy a cheaper chiffon and use that as another extra layer to diffuse it. I'm not quite sure how that's going to look. But the good thing is, I'm pretty sure I have some cheap chiffon lying around. Maybe not a whole lot, but enough to check if that would even work, how that's going to look, etc. That does have another advantage, because if you look at their dresses, they have a subtle gradient. It's very obvious with Genevieve, but the others have a gradient as well. And we do have fabric dye, and I was just going to dye this top chiffon, and again, kind of expensive, so I'm terrified. So if I buy a cheaper chiffon to go underneath, then maybe I could get away with just dyeing that one. That would A, make some splotches or unevenness be a little less obvious, and B, I wouldn't have to dye the expensive chiffon. I also think that cheaper chiffon is going to be more of a pain to dye. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut the circle skirts out of this, the same for the fabric for Iris. That way they can hang and stretch, because circle skirts are partially cut on the bias, so they are going to need to stretch a bit there. And that way I can pin them on my mannequin and really see what it does. And then I can play around with the cheap chiffon I'm playing around and look at some options. Yeah, I'm not very optimistic right now, I'm not going to lie. I was really happy when we got the fabrics because they're gorgeous. And then I put them on the mannequin and I was like, oh no, this isn't going to work at all. So I'm a little discouraged right now.
Regardless of extra fabric, a circle skirt needed to be cut, so I started out with that. If you don't know what a circle skirt is, just a really quick rundown. It is a skirt that's a circle. It's really as simple as that. There is a smaller circle in the middle, that's where your waist is going to go. That circle has a radius of your waist divided by 6.14 or 2 times pi. Then the radius of that bigger circle is just going to be that first radius plus the length that you want your skirt to be. It's really as simple as that. When you make full length skirts like these, they're usually not going to fit on your fabric, so you're going to put it in 2 halves. Cutting out circle skirts is a workout, like trust me. Luckily I was helped by Iris and my dog Ezra. Although admittedly one of these two was noticeably more helpful than the other. I really don't know what Iris was doing there. So for Iris fabric, we had to do things a little bit differently because we didn't really have enough. So what I did instead of having 2 halves is split one of those halves down the middle, so I have 2 quarters, and that saves up just a little bit more fabric. Having cut out the skirts, I needed to sew them together. For this I used French seams. Now I would love to go into detail about how to do French seams, but I actually want to make a separate video on that someday. So for now I'll just say, first you sew things wrong sides together, then you iron it open, cut down your seam allowance, and then you sew things right sides together.
Forever, but I finished all circle skirts. They're currently hanging in the hallway so they can stretch out as much as they need to. I'm going to leave them there for a while because I just don't want them stretching later on and create some unevenness in the layers. That's going to be really ugly. We are going to need extra layers, so we bought more fabric. A lot more. I'm going to have to turn all of this into more circle skirts. So we bought really cheap chiffon to go under the top chiffon layer. We chose a lighter color because that's just going to create a little bit more depth. And we bought cotton voile. And we bought cotton voile to go underneath all of this. We did debate about the cotton just because this is also a little bit see-through, which kind of defeats the point of having it to prevent all of this being see-through. But we figured that with the extra layers we are probably fine on the whole transparency problem. And if we have bought a cotton poplin, that's a little bit more stiff and we really want to keep that flowiness. So, wow. Now I just have to cut all of this and sew it all. I'm going to spare you the pain of having to watch all of that again. So for you it's going to take a second, but for me it's going to take all day to turn all of this into circle skirts. I would do a really cool transition here, but my setup just... You're standing on my bed, just so you know. So imagine a really cool transition here where I suddenly have the finished product. Thanks.
One eternity later.
I didn't mean for this video to have an oversized shirt vibe, but I'm also just not mad at it, so we're just gonna go with it. Anyway, I finished cutting and sewing the circle skirts. I did them basically the same way as I did the first 2 layers, except this time I didn't bother with French seams and I just used the seam allowance to finish off those raw edges. I have those new layers up in the hallway with the others so they can stretch, with the exception of the dark blue cotton layer. I just put that on my mannequin to give myself some motivation, because the extra chiffon layer worked a little bit too well. You can barely see the gold now, which sucks a lot. It's not terrible. See, the thing is, it does look good. I actually really like that the lighter colors we chose gave a little bit more depth to it, the whole thing. It just sucks that you can't really see the gold under it. You can see it if there's direct light shining on it, and when you do see it, it's actually really pretty. The thing is, when I make a costume, I always keep in mind how it's going to look on pictures. Usually try to take your pictures in the shadow and not in direct sunlight, so you don't have any harsh light and shadow edges. With the exception, of course, of studio shoots, but I don't do those as much. So I usually try to make my costumes look good in a shaded place. I mean, they're still gonna look good, they're just not going to be gold. We're just going to have to accept that, because I don't know what else to do, and also I'm not making another circle skirt and spending more money on this than I already did. The next logical step would be to go and dye that chiffon layer, but I am scared, so I'm going to procrastinate on that. And also, I really want to give it a chance to stretch out as much as it needs to, so the dye doesn't go uneven. But also, I'm scared. It's mostly that I'm not going to dye. So for today, I am going to start with painting. I have all of this gold stuff, and trying to get gold things in the same color is a nightmare. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. This is the trim that's going to go on the bottom of the skirts, and it's way too yellow. So I'm going to go over it with some acrylic paint to lighten that up. The same for these 2 appliques that are going on the front of the bodice. Those also have to be a little less yellow. Then we have these 2 trims. I really love this pale antique gold, but for what we're going to, this needs to be a little bit more yellow. So I'm going to paint those to be a little bit more yellow. This is fairly easy. It's going to take a while, especially with this one, because it's just a lot. But I do think it's going to be worth the time and effort.
To prevent the ribbon from getting really stiff and cakey, I mixed the paint with a fair amount of water. Like, a lot of water. You can see me using a mixture of white and gold and a little bit of yellow here to mimic a light gold. And it kind of worked, but it wasn't perfect. Later off camera I went over this with silver and that worked way better. It's time for dyeing, and I'm scared. I'm really scared, but just gonna do it. I've got my dyes. I'm going to start with the green one because in my head the green will be easier. Don't ask me why. I have this ruler as a steering stick because it's just what we have. We got this pot secondhand. Quite frankly, I don't think it's big enough for full circle skirts, but this is the best we could do. We went to like full thrift stores and this was the only pot they had that was remotely big enough. So I pre-washed my fabric. I am going to do some samples first, just because that sounds like a good idea. But also, if the fabric has to take half an hour to take the dye, then that's also going to be true for a sample, which sounds very inconvenient, but we're gonna find out. Also, I don't have a thermometer, so I'm going to guesstimate the temperature of the water. This is such a bad idea. Whatever. Time to start the dye bath. What could possibly go wrong? For guesstimation, I am going to fill half of this pot with boiling water and the other half with normal water. And I hope that's going to average at about 60 degrees, which I believe is the temperature I need. I'm very sure of what I'm doing here. Oh, heavy. I'll just put on the stove really low so that hopefully this will just kind of maintain its temperature. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. I do. I also have some towels that I'm going to put around this to protect the stove. I do want to mention though, this is an induction stove. That means it's not going to heat up anything that isn't magnetic, aka not a towel. So this is safe. Don't do this if you don't have an induction. Generally, this is not a tutorial. This is the first time I'm dyeing anything and I decided to be an idiot and gradient dye polychiffon. I'm also already hating these gloves. I'm gonna check if we have other ones. We do! Wonderful! I know a lot of people hate these gloves, but I used to study veterinary medicine, so I'm fine with this. Also, they match my outfit. That's really important. Okay, I'm scared. Shake well before using. Fuck, I didn't shake. I read these instructions like 4 times before I started filming. None of it stuck. Okay, I shaked. I don't know if I did it well, but I shaked. Shook. Whatever. Oh right, and dish detergent. Okay. Now they say 1 teaspoon, but they're also talking in gallons, so I have no idea what they're talking about, so I'll just do... Sure. I'm sure that's fine. Okay, let me just... This is quite a little bit darker than I need it to be, so Yep, that's in there. That's just full on in there now. I wish I could show you, but I'm not touching the camera. Oh, that smells. Not the most pleasant smell ever. I am so glad I'm not doing this with the super expensive chiffon. Currently it's not really doing anything. Which is, I kind of guess it's sort of good that it doesn't die immediately. Because that would have me terrified. Watch me have like an hour footage and nothing happening. So they do say that for synthetic fabrics you should double the dye. And I just did whatever because again, they're talking gallons. I can't be bothered, frankly. I don't think it really matters. As long as you don't want the exact color that they have on the bottle, and I don't, so... Is something happening? I don't know, sometimes I feel like something happening, but I think that's just wishful thinking. But I'm wondering if it would be okay if I just added some more dye to this. I think I'm just going to add more dye in there. I think that's going to be fine. That's still not the entire bottle. See, now that's doing something. It's not doing a lot, don't get me wrong. But there is something happening, which is good. I'm not sure it's doing anything actually. Yeah, it's doing something. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, something is happening. Not sure if it's a lot, but something is happening. I think adding in more dye was a good call. Maybe I should just add all the dye. I don't know, that sounds a little bit scary, I'm not gonna lie. What could possibly go wrong? Man, every time I stir it, that scent just... Ugh. Nobody warned me about scent. Actually, maybe they did. I probably didn't listen if they did. I'm already getting stiff shoulders. That's not good, because this is a tiny piece. Ah, that's a different color. How different? I don't want to talk about it. It's different. I really hope my camera isn't going to run out of batteries. Somehow doing this while filming, talking to you guys, that's alleviating my anxiety. I'm really happy you're here. I don't know if that shows up on camera, but again, something is happening. I'm just going to add more dye. Or just add all of it. Forbidden stinky soup. I wish I could show you the kind of green that this is. But it's giving me witch. Like, I feel like a witch stirring this. This is the kind of green that like witch soups are made out of. Fabric wasn't doing any scary immediate dyeing, so I decided that it would be fine to just go in with the real fabric. And also my arm started hurting, which did not stop once I started doing the actual fabric, because it was more. I tried out so many different positions. Sitting on the stove was actually really comfortable, but the stove didn't like it. Again, we have an induction, it's safe, you're just not supposed to do it. Okay, let's do a little bit of a vloggy situation. I finished the green skirt. It dyed. I'm not super happy with it. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but... God, sunshine. It's just not as dark as I'd hoped it would be. So that sucks, but oh well. Yeah, you can't really see on camera, but trust me. So that's drying there. I'm just gonna hope that that's going to show up through the upper chiffon layer. And if not, we'll see. Ezra's inspecting. Hey, Queenie! Hi! Yeah! Oh my gosh! Yeah! Knappers. Alright, so here we have the dye bath, still with the green. You can see how icky the water is. That's... it's not a lovely color. They called it peacock blue, but this is just swamp green. I'm sorry. Also, they called it peacock green, not. Anyway, what's currently in here are the shoes. They're nasty right now. You can't really tell on camera, but they are turning green-ish. It's not great or anything. But I'm just going to leave them in there. I saw lots of people do this with these shoes from Primark. So that's what we're going to try. And if that doesn't work, I'll just paint over it. That's fine. But I think dye is going to last a little bit longer. So we're gonna try that. It's currently 12 o'clock, so I think I'll leave the blue skirt until after lunch. So, wish me luck, thanks. Hi, Vloggy Me is back. I just did the blue skirt and I currently have the shoes in here. You can slowly see one of the soles peeking up from the water. I must say, this water is much more appetizing than the green one. Don't eat your dyes, guys. Dog got herself stuck. Sweetie! Yeah! Never mind, outside I'm getting stuck. Nah, she never learns. I love her, but she doesn't learn. Anyway, here are the two skirts with blue one. Again, you can't really tell on camera, but the gradient actually worked out really well. I'm really happy with that. It also took almost immediately, so this took me like 10 minutes or 15 minutes to do, compared to the 45 minutes that the green skirt took. So I'm really happy with that. Also, oh, I have to show you the green shoes. I don't think I showed you. Oh, they're horrible. They're just horrible. They're like a Shrek World ballets. Okay. I have a little bit more hope for the blue shoes now because the skirt worked so well. In hindsight, I don't think it made sense to think that the green would be easier, since green is literally blue and yellow. I don't know what I was thinking, but escaping. But they're already looking more blue than the other ones look green. So there's that. It's been a hot second since I worked on these skirts. Oops. What can I say? Went to see musical, made some shoes. You know, normal stuff. But we're getting back into it. So, the dyeing technically worked. There is a difference between the top and the bottom of the skirt, but you can really only see it when you hold them next to each other. You can't tell with the chiffon over it at all, which is a shame, but I don't think there's anything I can do about it, to be honest. Part of me wants to try again, get actually a thermometer, maybe some darker dye, try again, but I don't think this fabric just wants to take dye at all. It looked kind of good when I took the fabric out of the dye bath, especially with the blue one. That one looked very promising. And then when I washed it, almost all of the dye washed immediately out, and then during the drying, whatever remains kind of just vanished, to be honest. So I think this is a fabric issue rather than a method slash dye issue. So our skirts won't have a gradient. I did consider dyeing the top layer of the skirt, but we actually made a mistake if we want to do that, because we bought the top layer in the color that we want the skirt to end up in. And if we're going to dye it, then that doesn't work, because then it's going to be darker than we want it to be, which is kind of stupid. I just didn't think of that when we bought it, so no gradient. But better news, these skirts have been stretching in the hallway for like a week now, if not more. And sometimes when I pass by, I can actually see that gold shimmer in the skirts without needing direct light. So maybe that will actually look better in the finished result than I'm expecting it to be. We'll see. Either way. Today's petticoat day. As you might notice, I kind of already finished my top layer. I got in the groove one evening, so I just decided to do it. I have the green tulle for Eos petticoat, so that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to start with just that same basic top layer as I made for myself, and only after that I'm going to work on shaping it out. These are long enough that that doesn't really matter. Making petticoats like this is really simple. It's just straight strips of tulle gathered to each other. I honestly didn't even bother measuring much of it. I just estimated where the middle of one panel was and then I just matched those up. That worked perfectly fine. My first tier was 2 strips, so 3 meters in total, of a 30 centimeter strip of tulle. Then my second tier was 4 strips of 40 centimeter tulle, and my third tier was 8 strips of 50 centimeters. This sounds like a lot, but honestly, it wasn't. It really wasn't. I had this image in my mind of a really fluffy petticoat, and if I'd wanted to do that, I should have doubled all of this. But this is fine too. It worked. It does what it's supposed to do. Now, if you want to be really neat about things, you should probably do a basting stitch through the top of your tulle and then gather it along that so you have nice even gathering. That sounds like a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of threads. And I didn't want to waste any of that. So I just gathered things under the machine and that works fine.
I finished the petticoat, as you can see. I'm not going to lie, the more I was working with that more green tulle, the more it was giving Beetlejuice Barbie. So I'm just gonna have to live with that, it's fine. Anyway, it's time for the actual shaping part. So for that, I am probably mostly going to use this. This is a real stiff tulle, the one that you get for like a Eurometer, that type. It's black, which is unfortunate, but no one's going to see it, and this is just what we had lying around. Then I also have the leftovers from the skirts. These are a lot softer. That might be useful, I'm not entirely sure, because I don't want to add any unnecessary bulk to the waist. And I do want to have a big impact, but this might be a bit too much. I have no concrete plan. I'm just going to play around with it. We're gonna see what's gonna happen. I don't think it should be too difficult. We'll see what actually ends up happening. You're in the future, you're going to find out in a second, probably. Voiceover Daphne will tell you. Yeah, you go voiceover Daphne.
Thank you, Boss Daphne, who didn't bother to explain anything, really. If you're confused, that's fair. I'm kind of confused too. And I did this. But I'll catch you up. So, what I was talking about with that shaping, our skirts currently have a very A-line model, and that's fine. But if you look at the skirts in the movie, they're much more bell-shaped. So I want to try to recreate that, and for that, I'm using just more tulle. That's generally how you go about this. What I ended up with are 4 layers of tulle, of that really stiff black tulle that are 3 meters wide, starting at 25 centimeters and ending at 5 centimeters, just stacked on top of each other and then gathered at the waist. That created a nice puff. And then to add a little bit of softness to that, I also added 2 layers of that normal tulle that I used before. That's a little bit softer. I'm not entirely sure if that did anything, but it gave me peace of mind, so that's something. I wasn't planning on filming much of anything of making the bumpy layer for the green petticoat. I was just going to figure out how I was going to do it and then show you on the blue one. But I have to show you this. So this is the petticoat. As you can see, the shape is actually really good. I'm really happy with that. But this stitching is absolutely atrocious. It's so uneven, it's horrible. And it's in black because, of course, see what happened is I had black thread in the bobbin and white thread on top. And I thought that's perfect. You know, I have the black tulle on the inside, white elastic on the outside. No one is going to notice that I was too lazy to change out my bobbin. What I didn't think about was that the elastic was going to go on the bottom and the fabric was going to go on top. By the time I found out, I was halfway. I was in, I had accepted my fate. No one is going to see this. But decisions are made, people. I clipped all of my layers together, including that full-length petticoat layer. I just pasted that quickly on the machine and then I started clipping it to an elastic. And yes, that was an absolute nightmare. But it worked. And again, instead of doing any real nice gathering stitches, I just pushed it under the foot of my machine and hoped that it would work out. It did. It was a hassle, but it worked.
This is 40 meters of fabric cut into 8 circle skirts that I now have to hem. Please save me. Alright, I'm going to do this real quick. I tried measuring out the skirt by folding it and all, so I can even out the bottom, but chiffon is a nightmare. This is a nightmare. I'm going to do it downstairs where I have the entire floor, and I'm not going to film it because it's not exciting anyway. I thought I was filming me trying to do it here, but I wasn't. Anyway, I do want to show you this. So this should all be the same length. It was originally, and you can really see how much this stretched out. It's really bad. And that is why we let our skirt stretch. To be fair, usually 24 hours will do it. You don't have to do it for a week. That's just what I happened to do because I kept procrastinating.
If you want to hem your circle skirts the proper way, you have to do a rolled hem. Now the internet will probably tell you to use a rolled hem foot, and I do have one, but if you've ever used one, you know those are evil and the devil spawn and should be avoided at all costs. So I did. I did it the other method, which is first you fold down about 1 centimeter of the edge. You iron that. Ironing is so important when having circle skirts. Then you sew that. Then you clip short the seam allowance. Then you iron that again. Then you fold it over again. You iron it again. You sew it again. And you iron it again. Yes, it's a hassle, but that's how you get nice results.
When I tell you that this took 3 days, I wish I was exaggerating. I'm not. This took the better part of 3 days, and that was with Iris helping me a lot. She did almost all of the cutting of the seams. Don't make 8 full-length circle skirts. Don't do it. It's fine, they're done now. This is gonna be really pretty, so I'm just going to erase the past 3 days from my mind. It's fine. What would be logical to do next is to add that gold band on the outer skirt layer. However, I don't really trust these skirts. I did everything I could to even out the hem, but I don't fully trust that I did that correctly. And I would be fine, but to accentuate any unevenness with a golden band, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to make life a little bit more difficult on myself, because clearly this was too easy. And I'm going to attach the 3 outer layers to each other into a waistband. So that way I can see exactly how everything falls, and then I can attach that gold band. Which does mean that when I do, I have to deal with 3 skirts instead of 1, but I think it's going to be fine. It's going to be a hassle, but it's going to be fine. The cotton skirts are going to go under the petticoats, so those need a different waistband, and I'm not quite sure yet how I want to do that, so I'm going to ignore that for now. And I'm just going to attach those chiffon layers.
So, we tried the dresses on and they're not right. Iris is currently wearing her... Hi! So she's wearing her skirt, as you can see, and yep, that hem is atrocious. That's atrocious. Welcome to the floor, but this is the only way I can show you the hem. So, and Iris her feet. Hey, no free. I will blur those. No free feet here. So as you can see, in the front the hem isn't that bad, but when you go over to the side, it starts dipping down. I don't know how that happened. Again, we let everything stretch, then I trimmed it. So in theory, either everything should be too long or everything should be too short, but not whatever the hell is happening over here. So I'm kind of frustrated. This project is officially cursed, and I'm going to play a game and think about what I'm going to do next. I'll keep you updated. This is the next day, as you might be able to tell. Yesterday I played some games, and I've decided to take a little break from the skirts, which sucks because I would really like to show you a finished product, but I don't have one right now, and literally nothing I'm doing is turning out, and I'm getting stressed about it. I'm getting disappointed in myself. I'm just overall not that happy with anything. I've been working on this skirt for a month now, and it's starting to get frustrating. And creativity doesn't really work well with frustration and stress and the like. So I think the best thing for me to do right now is just to take a step back. I need to finish Iris' corset, so I think I'll do that first. I'm also just going to take a little break from sewing, I think, just a few days. You won't really notice it. I don't post daily anyway. The only thing you will notice is that this video doesn't have a result. I do know how to fix the skirt length. There are 2 options. Either I shorten it from the bottom, which means I have to rehem everything, and I really don't want to do that. Or I shorten the top, which I'm inclined to do, but I'm kind of worried that that's going to create some weird lines because the length is uneven. So we're going to see how that works, if that's an option. And maybe after a little break, I will have the courage to rehem everything. Probably not. So yeah, that's that. I'm really sorry that I don't have an amazing conclusion right now. The perfect solution that's going to fix all my problems. This was supposed to be the easy part of this project, and it's not. It's been a nightmare, frankly. I would really like for the next video to be part 2 of this skirt adventure, just because I don't want to leave you hanging too long. However, I'm not sure if that's realistic. Plus, I'll be making a corset first, and I did want to film that because my first corset video is A, terrible quality, and B, it's mostly focused on the mock-up stage, and now I want to focus on how to actually make it. So that's coming. Whether that's going to be my next video or the one after that, I'm not sure yet. Sometimes sewing just doesn't work out the way you want it to, even if you've made so much. So yeah, a little bit of a downer. I'm sorry, but I am really happy that you're here, that you've been here, and I hope you'll be here for the second part of this adventure where hopefully everything will magically turn out. That would be great. No promises. Let me know if you've also had that project that should have been easy, but wasn't for whatever reason. We've all been there. I'm there. So maybe you're there with me. If you're still here, then you probably want to see part 2, so subscribe to be notified when that goes up. I upload every other week, but again, I'm not sure if the skirt video is going to be the next video or the one after that. If you want live updates, then you can head over to my Instagram. That's where I post that kind of things. It has been a little bit slow there, but that's mostly because I've been filming from my phone. if you want to post Instagram stories, I would need my phone. However, exciting news, I got a second-hand camera. I'm really excited about this. Not only because it's just going to be way more convenient for me, but also because I'm going to be able to deliver better quality to you. And I think that's going to be really exciting. So next video should be better quality. I hope I'll see you there. Bye!